Story time about how my mother-in-law accused me of cheating on her son. Disclaimer, it's not my story time, it's not on my Instagram. My evil mother-in-law is the worst of the worst. The moment I started dating her perfect little son, she would make judgmental comments on my body, and if I was ever in the kitchen cooking, she would be there to try to criticize everything that I would do. When my husband and I finally got pregnant, she pretended to be happy. I could see deep down inside she was hating the fact that I was pregnant. I think she always had the hope that he would leave me. But let me give you some background info on my husband. This man is lucky to be with me. Not only am I a 12, I am so kind and caring to him, and I have way too much patience for him. Whereas my mother-in-law thinks that he's the one lucky to be with me. First off, I make way more money than my husband, so I'm the one paying for most of the bills. But guess what? My husband asked me not to tell his mom about that because he'd be embarrassed. He also doesn't know how to cook or clean. And guess why? Because his mother did everything for him growing up. So I'm the one that has to cook, clean, and pay for the bills. A few months ago, I asked my husband for a divorce. He ran over to his mom's house and tried to get her to convince me not to. But guess what? His mom called me and told me that she'd convince him to give me a divorce. Part 2 is up. Story time about how my mother-in-law accused me of cheating on her son. Disclaimer, it's not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. So instead of her trying to convince me not to leave him, she told me that she would convince my husband to break up with me. This was all for my benefit because I was the one that wanted a divorce. But 2 weeks later, I find out I'm pregnant. At the time, we were still living in the same house, but we weren't really talking. So I finally went up to him and told him that I was pregnant. He was so happy. Do you think he even gave me a hug or a kiss? No, he picked up the phone and called his mother right away. He called her on speaker and I could hear what she was saying. And as soon as he told her, she said, "It's probably not your kid." How could I have not seen this coming? At this point, she thought we were gonna get a divorce. So me having a kid was the worst case scenario for her. Right away, she told him to kick me out of the house that I pay for. That's when I grabbed the phone from him and I started telling her everything. First off, I told her that I paid for all the bills and that her son made only $200 a week from a stupid gaming thing and that he wasn't even bothering to look for another job. And then on top of paying for the bills, I still had to cook and clean. And I asked her, "Do you really think this is the kind of man I want to have a kid with?" She had no response. That's when she hung up the phone and told my husband to go over to her house. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my mother-in-law accused me of cheating on her son. Disclaimer, is now my story time, it's not on my Instagram. When I broke the news to her that he didn't pay for any of the bills and that I was paying for the house, my husband hung up the phone and told me that he would never speak to me again. God, if only that were true. Then he goes over to his mom's house and guess what? An hour later, he demands I go over to her house to apologize to his mother. I said that I would, but instead, I went over there and told her some more truths. I ended up telling her that her son told me not to tell her that he didn't make any money, and that the whole time he and I were together, she thought that he was paying for all the bills. Then I said, "Aren't you embarrassed that your son is like that?" That's when she told me the only way she would accept my child was with a paternity test. Am I supposed to do that with the baby in my belly? Finally, the baby was born and I was able to prove that it was his son. My husband wants us to stay together, but his mom keeps criticizing me. Every time she sees the kid, she says it doesn't look like my husband, even though I already proved that it was his. I think that I should get a divorce. I'm afraid my mother-in-law might do something to the baby. My husband thinks I'm just overreacting. What should I do?
The dumbest thing I've ever gotten in trouble for. Yo, this is so dumb. I was 10 years old staying at my grandma's house in Dominican Republic, and every single time we had dinner, I was stuffing food into my pockets. So I was putting them in the napkins, twisting that up, and stuffing them in my pockets, basically stealing food. And you know what I would do? I would go outside where all the street dogs were, and I was feeding them. And this is like very frowned upon. Like you don't do that. I don't know if it's like disrespectful or just like in general stupid, but I thought I was a hero. I was like, man, I'm the main character. I'm feeding these dogs. These are my friends. They all had names. And I think, you know what? Every single time I went out there, those dogs, I think they were multiplying. They must have been telling their friends like, yo, there's this crazy girl from America. She just got here. She's here for a month. You need to tell your friends because it's not gonna last. Yeah. And it was true. They were my friends. Because like every single time I went out there, I'm like, come here. Look what I brought today. Look what I brought. And these dogs, they were waiting for me. They were waiting for me. I really thought I was doing something because I was feeding these dogs. And then one day my grandma caught me. She was furious. She almost beat me up. She was like, "How dare you take my food and feed it to those thieves? They're gonna come in this house. They're gonna take everything now." Honestly, I didn't really care. I didn't really empathize or like, I get it though, because those dogs, they were like, they were ballsy. They would come in through the house, be like, "Where's Joe? Where's my friend Joe?" I'm like, "Man, you can't be here right now, okay? My family's here. Stay outside, okay? We can talk later." Yeah, every time a dog walked into her house or would come near her house, she would blame me. She'd be like, "You see, this is because you were feeding them. Now they think they can just come around." Yeah, but I miss them. I hope they're okay.
Am I wrong for not letting my daughter choose the theme to her birthday party? I, 29, am the mother of my daughter, Kira. She just turned 6 this past weekend, and we had a party with her extended family and friends. Unfortunately, the party was less than her expectations and she hasn't shut up about it, and I'm afraid I might have done something wrong. A few weeks ago, before buying themed invitations and decorations, I asked my daughter what she wanted the party's theme to be so that I could buy the themed invitations and decorations. She said she wanted an Isabella-themed party, the name of a minor character in the recent Disney film Encanto. I tried to dissuade her from this idea for 2 reasons. Reason 1, which I told her, is that there probably wouldn't be many decorations to buy that centered around the character. Reason 2, which I did not tell her, is that I would have intense secondhand embarrassment and surely feel judged by my family who definitely wouldn't be familiar with such an obscure and uncomfortable recent Disney installment. Ultimately, Kira was completely unhappy with her Disney party and the guests weren't much happier. Kira's school friend's mom confronted me after asking my daughter why she had been crying the whole time and in short gave me hell. My mother offered to throw a party at her own house the next day and she'd buy every Isabella thing she could find at the store, on the condition that she bring my daughter and I don't show up at all. But I declined and kind of faked a seizure to avoid any further attacks because I was just completely exhausted. Everyone left while my daughter's face was covered in cake and tears, but mostly anger. I was just trying to do the best for both my daughter and myself, but everyone ended up disappointed in me. So, am I wrong?
Bring back the story times. Bring back the okay. Unlike the other children, me and my sister grew up without any allergies. We had strong genes. I even got tested. I went to the doctor. I got tested and they were like, nope, you don't have any allergies. Dogs, cats, peanut butter, nothing. I'm sure I'm allergic to something in the middle of the ocean that hasn't been discovered yet. I'm sure I'm allergic to something like that. But the point is I'll never encounter it. My sister is, actually you tell me what this is. My sister over the weekend went to this new restaurant in Chinatown called Friendship BBQ. Shout out to y'all, amazing. But we had this thing that we've never had before. She ordered something called quail egg wrap. It was like a bunch of quail eggs in this spicy broth that was being like cooked under like this flame. Me and my friend were eating and we were enjoying our food, but then we quickly realized, whoa, this is spicy. They didn't ask us mild or anything. I think it just comes like that. But I stopped eating. I have a very low spicy tolerance. My sister does not. She likes spicy things. So she kept eating that. She kept eating her quail eggs and she kept eating that spicy broth by the spoonfuls. Me and my friend were enjoying the music videos that were playing on the screen. We were laughing, having a good time. We hear this. Look over to my sister. She just kept pointing at her throat and saying, it's swollen. What's happening? It hurts. I thought she was dying. So I remembered that I had like my cousin's asthma inhaler in my bag, but I didn't have it in my bag. So I was wasting precious time searching my bag for this asthma inhaler that was not in there while my sister was throwing up on the table. And I thought, okay, maybe that's gonna help. It didn't. She kept pointing at her throat. It's swollen. Luckily, my friend had ordered a tea that she did not drink at all. Gave it to my sister because all the water that she was drinking was not helping. And finally, when she drank the tea, she was like, okay, it's better. She looks at me and she goes, what was that? When I tell you, me and my friend burst out laughing. It was all the built up tension, I think. We were panicked. My sister has had quail eggs before, so it wasn't that. I told her whatever was in that spicy broth, you need to stay away from it. Guess who continued to eat spicy food for the rest of the trip? I told her, man, if you choke and die, that's on you. Didn't listen to me whatsoever. I don't care. But yeah, what do you guys think that was? Curious.